Childhood friend. Woke up to two people inside my house while home alone. Ended up looking down the barrel of a gun held by an old childhood friend. Quick backstory here. I'm 18 and I live in a lower middle class townhome complex with my divorced mother and my little brother. My mom was out of the state for a week at the time, and my little brother was staying at our dad's house for the week. I don't drive, so there were no cars outside my house. 18 years old with the house to himself for a week, with a mom who was perfectly fine with me smoking weed in the house and gave me permission to have a few friends over while she was gone. Every teen's dream growing up, right? Yeah, except it ended up a little different than that. The first day, I come home from a 10-hour shift at the gas station I work at, half a mile down the road from my house. I walk home, head into my basement, smoke a bowl, and fall asleep with my cat. A few hours later, I wake up with an uneasy feeling. It's 1 a.m., and I hear footsteps upstairs. My cat is on my bed, and my dog is at a dog daycare for the week. I hear drawers upstairs being opened, and immediately grab my switchblade and call 911. They send a squad car out, and I stay on the phone. I hear someone coming downstairs, with my bed just being in the basement, due to the bedroom essentially being the size of a closet. I'm the first thing they'll see when they come downstairs. I jump to my feet, drop my phone, and drew my switchblade. The door opens, the light turns on, and in walks a man, around my age, wearing a backpack and holding a crowbar. 5'10", 140 pounds, scrawny and shirtless me in there standing with a mere 4-inch knife, locking eyes with a man I've never seen before inside my house holding a crowbar. He jumped as high as I did when he saw me. With a surge of foolish confidence, I point the knife towards him and told him not to step towards me. Funny considering his crowbar had a solid foot of reach over my knife. He shouted, "What the fuck, bro? We didn't know anyone was here, man. I'm not looking for a fight, man." I hear quick and heavy footsteps coming down and a voice saying, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing down there?" A second man emerges through the doorway, this one holding a pistol, and it's pointed at me once he notices me. His eyes light up, as do mine, as I realize who I'm looking at, an old elementary school friend I drifted out of contact with. I had some friends who started talking to him recently, but I heard he turned into a recreational Xanax addict and didn't want to fuck with that, so I never bothered getting back in contact. Turns out that was exactly why they were robbing my seemingly empty house for Xanax money. "Josh?" he said in a questioning voice as he lowered his gun. "Fuck, dude. I don't know what to say." At this point, the door slammed open and the police rushed into the house, eventually coming downstairs and arresting the two. It didn't even dawn on me until the cop that stayed downstairs to talk to me jokingly mentioned that I had a bong on a desk next to my bed, roughly an ounce of weed in a desk, and the basement had to have smelled pretty strongly. Luckily, the cop ended up being cool and just saying, "I honestly don't care, they should just legalize it anyways. After what you've been through, you need a joint." And then with a laugh, "But I never said that to you." So yeah, I'm not a storyteller by any means, but I thought you guys would enjoy. Offered my home intruder a cup of tea. This happened nearly 5 years ago, but unfortunately the memory remains very ingrained in my mind. Bit of context to get started. I live in a medium-sized city that, in 2011, was badly affected by a strong earthquake. Around 200 were killed, and a large portion of the city's older buildings were either outright destroyed or deemed uninhabitable. One such building was the affectionately coined Mental Rehab Center, Sunnyside. Naturally, having a significant number of mentally ill patients without a roof over their head only increased the city's problems at this stage, and the short-term solutions were desperately in need. From my understanding, hospitals with the necessary facilities took the bulk of the load, while other temporary hospice and homestays were forced to become somewhat of a permanent fixture, even if they lacked the security that previously would have been a necessity to house these patients. I would later come to learn that one of these temporary hospice was less than a block from my house. My house, along with the majority of the houses on my street, back onto a small creek which runs through our suburb. It's relatively common for neighbors to wade down the creek to visit those who live a few houses along or on the other embankment, and virtually none of the properties have a back fence which prevents access. So, it was about 4 weeks after the initial quake, and things were beginning to return to some sense of normality. We're still being forced to use a communal portola out on the road, but in general, we are on the mend. It was a Sunday night, and I had gone to bed early because tomorrow was going to be my first day back at work in almost a month. At some point in the night, I later found out it was around 1:30 a.m., I began to stir, as I realized the soft laughter I was hearing in my dreams was actually a physical, real-life laugh. It was very faint, childlike almost, a giggle. Sitting up my dreary state, I assumed my brother had left the television on in the lounge, so dragging myself out of bed, I staggered down the hallway to switch it off. However, as I approached the living room, I soon realized that the laughter isn't increasing in volume, and upon reaching the room, I confirmed that indeed there is no TV or radio producing any sound. Suddenly feeling a bit foolish, I make my way back towards my room, where I hear no further giggling. Passing it off as my sleep-deprived brain playing tricks on me, I get back into bed and soon fall asleep. An hour later, I was again steered awake, this time by the soft plucking of my steel string guitar, which I keep in my office at the other end of the hall. No discernible melody, just random touches. Feeling very frustrated at this point for being woken up twice in one night, I immediately fling myself out of the bed, determined to find the sources of these irritating noises. Before I even make it 2 steps towards the door, the noise comes to an abrupt halt, and I realize that it too was coming from my room. More perplexed and angry at this point, I whirl around to see what could have possibly be producing the sound, and all at once, I feel like the wind has been knocked out of me. Sitting in the corner of my room, cross-legged, on a puddle of wet carpet, is a large, shaggy man wearing soaked clothes and holding my guitar. A million simultaneous thoughts go through my mind at this instant. The obvious what the fuck, who the fuck, and how the fuck were very prevalent, but also more bizarre thought processes like, God, it annoys me when people touch my guitar without asking. All logical thoughts seemed to come to a complete standstill at that point, and for whatever reason, some deep-seated social cue came roaring to life, and my mouth sputtered out the words, "Would you like a cup of tea?" Because obviously the first thing you do when someone comes to your house is offer them a cup of tea, right? The man seemed pleased with this interaction. He perks up and nods brightly. Finally, the rational part of my brain awakens from its coma, and I turn and sprint from my room, slamming it shut behind me. I scream for my brother to call the police while holding onto the door handle with all my might, dreading the desperate struggle that was sure to happen. "There's a man in my fucking room!" He comes running, and once seeing the look of terror on my face, does not waste time in making the call. While listening to him give the operator our address and pleading with him to hurry, I hear a soft knock-knock on the other side of the door. "No sugar, please." The word bamboozled comes to mind when I think about this moment. I fully expected to reach down, pinch my arm, and awaken from the most vivid dream of my life. The police arrived not long after, and my brother led them to me and the end of the hall. My knuckles turned white on the doorknob. After mentally bracing myself, I let go of the handle and leapt backwards, letting the policemen do their thing. They rushed into the room, tasers drawn, shouting at this home invader to show himself. Their aggression was short-lived, however, and I was still close enough to see why. The man was simply sitting on the edge of my bed now, amusing himself by playing with one of my figurines. I think the officer was also taken aback by this, as they halted for a second before continuing, a touch more gingerly. To cut a rather long-winded story short, and to confirm what you probably have already deduced, yes, this man was a mental patient who had slipped out of his temporary hospice and waded along the river looking for houses to explore. Muddy footprints on my neighbor's decks confirmed that he had originally tried to enter their homes. I was simply the one foolish enough to leave his unlocked. The police took him away, and they later gave me a follow-up call to say that he had been put in a much more secure location, and that I should still be a lot more vigilant when it comes to securing my house. In hindsight, I believe this man was totally harmless, ill, yes, obviously, but not malicious. There was ample opportunity when he could have harmed me had this been his intent, but he had not done so. He simply took my unlocked door as an invitation to come in. I didn't press charges, as I didn't want to damage the life of an already damaged person. The incident left me pretty shaken up, excuse the earthquake pun, for quite some time, and I still struggle falling asleep sometimes. But for the most part, I have moved on. There is one thing that I've never been able to let go, though. I believe this one detail has left a permanent scar on my psyche. As the police were leading the man from my house, he uttered a short giggle, the same one I had heard when I had awoken originally. The man couldn't find me under his bed. Homesick from school. I've posted here before, but reading all these robbery stories reminded me of another time I had an encounter. My junior year of high school, I woke up for school one morning feeling ill, so I stayed home. My parents work during the day, and my brother goes to school, so I'm home alone from 8 a.m. until around 4. That afternoon, it was around 12:30. I was laying in my bed with my blinds closed when the doorbell rang. I assume it was someone trying to sell something again because we get those often, and thought nothing of it. The doorbell rang a second time, which I thought was kind of peculiar because that never happened. Then it rang a third time, which got me worried. I peeked out my blinds just barely, where I can see my whole front yard, and I see two black men about my age just standing on the sidewalk in front of my house. I thought they were walking home from school, although I was confused as to why they would be at my house. I didn't hear the doorbell ring anymore, so I just kind of laid still for a second, waiting to see if anything else was going to happen. I didn't want to look outside in case anyone was standing there. All of a sudden, I see 3 figures run past my window going to the side of my house. The way of the layout of my house is if you run past mine and my brother's window, you reach the gate that leads into the side of my house. If you just follow the path of the side, you're met with my patio, which has 2 glass sliding doors leading into my house. Inside my house, we have curtains for our glass doors to close at night. At this point, I was panicking because sometimes I get lazy and we live in a pretty nice neighborhood. So when I let my pooches out to do their business, I don't always lock the glass sliding doors when I let them back in. I was going to book it to the glass doors to make sure they were locked, but by this time, I had even opened my door. My dogs were barking like mad at the glass door, and I could see the guys approaching. Luckily, the curtains were at the perfect position where the guy was basically right there, and had they not been there, he probably would have seen me. I noped right back into my room and slammed the door shut and locked it. I prayed to whatever was watching over me that I had locked the doors. I had descended into a full-blown panic attack because, well, I was sick, 90-pound, 17-year-old girl who had never had to deal with anything like this before, and had they entered, there were 3 big dudes who could basically destroy me. I called my mom instantly, instead of calling 911, and told her way too fast for her to understand that there were people trying to get into the house. She wasted no time calling 911, and luckily they were awaiting my call when I finally did. In time, the police came to my house, and I filed a report. They had another police cruiser strolling the streets looking for the suspects, and luckily they found all 3, but we decided not to press charges or even go look to confirm if it was them, because now they know where I live, and had they been angry enough, they could have came back and done something worse. My dad's tool shed ended up being dug through, but there was nothing valuable enough to be taken. On the other side of my house, there was another shed and a door leading into my garage, and there was nothing valuable in the other shed either, and the garage door was locked. My dad was working on fixing up our backyard at the time, so there were all these big bricks lying around, and I still thank my lucky stars to this day that they didn't think about picking up a brick and smashing the glass doors to get inside. My guess is if they had done that, there would have been really big trouble, and charges definitely would have been pressed. Even to this day, whenever I'm home alone and someone rings the doorbell, I panic and close the curtains while making sure the glass doors are locked, and run straight for my room. I feel pretty stupid when it's just family or something.